සුතං ඒකං සමයං භගවා සාවන්තියං විහෙරති 제තවනේ අනාථ පින්ඩිකංස ආරාමේ අතකෝ අඤ්ඤතරා දේවතා අබින්කන්තාය රන්තියා අබින්කන්ත වන්නා කේවල කම්පං 제තවනං ඕවාසෙන්වා යේන භගවාතේනුපසංකමී උපසංකමින්වා භගවන්තං අභිවාදෙන්වා ඒකමන්තං අන්තාසී ඒකමන්තං පිතාකෝසා දේවතා භගවන්තං ගාතාය අංජබාසී බහුදේවා මනුන්සාච මංගලානි අචින්තයොං ආකංකමානා සොන්තානං බ්‍රෝහි මංගලමුන්තමං අසේවනාච බාලානං පණ්ඩිතානංච සේවනා පූජාච පූජනීයානං ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං පතිරූපදේශවාසෝච පුම්බේච කත පුඤ්ඤතා අන්ත සම්මා පනිදිච ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං බාහු සංචංච සිම්පංච විනයෝච සුසිංකිතෝ සුභාසිතාච යාවාචා ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං මාතා පිතු උපට්ඨානං පුන්තදාරංස සංඝෝ අනාකුලාච කම්මන්තා ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං දානංච ධම්මචරියාච ඥාතකානංච සංඝෝ අනවංජානි කම්මානි ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං ආරති විරති පාපා මංජපානාච සංයමෝ අප්පමාදෝච ධම්මේසු ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං ගාරවෝච නිවාතෝච සන්තුන්ටීච කතං යුතා කාලේන ධම්ම සවනං ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං කන්තිච සෝව චන්සතා සමනානංච දන්සනං කාලේන ධම්ම සාකච්ඡා ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං තපෝච බ්‍රහ්මචරියංච අරිය සංචාන දන්සනං නිබ්බාන සංචිකිරියාච ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං පුන්තංස ලෝක ධම්මී චින්තං යන්සන කම්පති අසෝකං විරජං කේමං ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං ඒතාදිසානි කන්වාන සම්බන්තමපරාජිතා සම්බන්ත සොන්තිං ගච්ඡන්තිතං තේසං මංගල මුන්තමන්ති ඒතේන සංච වංජේන හෝතු තේ ජය මංගලං ඒතේන සංච වංජේන හෝතු තේ ජය මංගලං ඒතේන සංච වංජේන හෝතු තේ ජය මංගලං කරණීය මන්ත කුසලේන යන්තං සන්තං පදං අபிසමිච්ඡ සක්ඛෝජුච සුජුච සුවචෝචං සමුදෝ අනතිමානි සන්තුන්සකෝච සුභරෝච අම්පකින්චෝච සල්ලහුක උන්ති සන්තින්ද්‍රියෝච නිපකෝච අම්පගම්බෝ කුලේසු අනුනුගින්දෝ නච කුන්දං සමාචරේ කිංචි යේන විඤ්ඤූ පරේ උපවදෙය්‍යං සුඛිනෝ වාකේමිනෝ හන්තු සම්බේ සන්තා භවන්තු සුඛිතන්තා ඒකේචිපාන භූතන්ති තසවාතාවරාවා අනවසේසා දීඝාවායේ මහන්තාවා මංජිමාරංසකානුකතුලා දිත්ථාවායේව අන්දින්තා යේච දුරේ වසන්ති අවිදුරේ භූතාවා සම්භවේසීවා සම්බේ සන්තා භවන්තු සුඛිතන්තා නපරෝ පරං නිකුම්බේත ඥාති මඤ්ඤේත කන්ත චිනං කංචි ව්‍යාරෝසනා පටිග සංඥා ඥාඤ්ඤ මඤ්ඤංස දුක්ඛ මිච්ඡේය මාතා යතානියං පුන්තං ආයුසා ඒක පුන්ත මනුරංකේ ඒවම්පි සම්බභූතේසු මාන සංභාවයේ අපරිමාණ මෙත්තංච සම්බලෝකස්මින් මාන සංභාවයේ අපරිමාණ උන්දං අදෝච තිරියංච අසංභාදං අවේරං අසපත්තං තින්ඨං චරං නිසින්නෝවා සයානෝවායාවතන්ස විගතමින්දෝ ඊතං සතින් අදින්ඨේය බ්‍රහ්මමේතං විහාරං ඉදමාහෝ දින්ඨින්ච අනුපගම්ම සීලවා දන්සනේන සම්පන්නෝ කාමේසු විනය්‍යගේදං නහි ජාතු ගම්බසේයං පුනරේති. එවං මේ සුතං ඒකං සමයං භගවා සාවන්තියං විහෙරති ජේතවනේ අනාථපිණ්ඩිකංස ආරාමේ අතකෝ අඤ්ඤතරා දේවතා අබින්කන්තාය රන්තියා අබින්කන්තවන්නා කේවල කම්පං ජේතවනං ඕවාසෙන්වා යේන භගවාතේනුපසංකමී උපසංකමින්වා භගවන්තං අභිවාදෙන්වා ඒකමන්තං අන්තාසී ඒකමන්තං තිතාකෝසා දේවතා භගවන්තං ගාතාය අංජබාසී බහුදේවා මනුන්සාච මංගලානි අචින්තයොං ආකංකමානා සොන්තානං බ්‍රෝහි මංගලමුන්තමං අසේවනාච බාලානං පණ්ඩිතානංච සේවනා පූජාච පූජනීයානං ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං අතිරූපදේශවාසෝච පුම්බේච කත පුඤ්ඤතා අන්ත සම්මා පනිදිච ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං බාහු සංචංච සිම්පංච විනයෝච සුසිංකිතෝ සුභාසිතාච යාවාචා ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං මාතා පිතු උපට්ඨානං පුන්තදාරංස සංඝෝ අනාකුලාච කම්මන්තා ඒතං මංගලමුන්තමං
Nice to see you again on another Sunday over Subang Jaya Buddhist Association Facebook and YouTube Live. We have many devotees watching from various society. Please check your Wi-Fi reception. I know I have a bad Wi-Fi reception this morning, so I beg your forgiveness on this. As during this period, everyone is using the Wi-Fi, so it's all affected. So if you encounter and you see interruption, well, just stay calm. It will come back again. Let us have a calm mind. Or any offerings to be offered along with us, you do welcome to join the chanting afterwards. Namo Buddhaya. Welcome to Subang Jaya Buddhist Association 51st online Sundays Buddha Puja service. To continue with our Buddhist faith and practices, and a chance to listen to the Dharma sharing. Well, I can see many of you are really engaging with everyone through the comment box. Well done, and continue. Let us prepare ourselves by sitting comfortably, relax our bodies, and compose our mind. Let go of thinking about the past and future. Let us be in the present moment. I shall hand over to the puja leader, Sister.
Thank you, Brother Chan. Good morning, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Namo Buddhaya. Let us begin with our Sunday Buddha Puja. May I invite Brother Jim to make the offerings to the Buddha. Brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, if you have prepared the offerings at home, you may also light your candles or oil lamps and make the other offerings to the Buddha. For the other devotees, let us fold our palms together in Anjali position and contemplate mindfully. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, let us together pay homage to the Tripajan. Buddhang Pujemi, Dhammang Pujemi, Sanghang Pujemi. Brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, let us together take refuge in the Tripajan and observe the 5 precepts. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Buddhang Saranang Gacchami Dhammang Saranang Gacchami Sanghang Saranang Gacchami Dutiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami Dutiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami Dutiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami Tatiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami Tatiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami Tatiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami Panchasila Panatipata Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami Adinna Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami Kamesu Miccācara Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami Musavada Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami Suramiraya Majjapamadatthana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami Imani Pancha Sikkhapadani Samadhiyami Imani Pancha Sikkhapadani Samadhiyami Imani Pancha Sikkhapadani Samadhiyami Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Iti piso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vicacharana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhamma sarati sattha deva manussanang buddho bhagavati Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Sanditiko Akaliko Ehipassiko Oppanayiko Pacchatthang Veditabbu Vinyuhiti Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Ujupatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Nyayapatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Samicipatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Yadidang Attari purisa yugani atta purisa puggala esa bhagavato savaka sango Ahuneyo pahuneyo dakkineyo anjali karaniyo anuttarang punyaketang lokasati Vanjami cetiyang sabbang sabbatane supatititang Saririka dhatu mahabodhi Buddha rupang sakalang sada Yassa mule nisinnova sabbari vijayang aka Patto sabbanyutang satta Vande tang bodhipadapang Ime ete mahabodhi lokanatena pujita Aham pite namassami bodhi raja namattute Ganasarappaditena dipena tamadansina Tiloka dipang sambuddhang pujayami tamonudang Ganda sambara yuttena dupenahang sugandina Pujaye pujaniyang tang puja bhajana muttamang Vanna ganda gunopetang etang kusuma santating Pujayami munindassa siripada saruruhe Pujemi buddhang kusumena nena punyena metena cahotu mokkang Puppang milayati yata idang me Kayo tata yati vinasa bhavang Adivasetu no bhante Paniyang parikapitang Anukang pang upadaya Patigan hatu muttamang Kayena vaca cittena pamadena maya katang Accayang kamame bante puripanya tathagata Kayena vaca cittena pamadena maya katang Accayang kamame dhamma sanditika akalika Kayena vaca cittena pamadena maya katang Accayang kamame sangha supatipanna anuttara Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu
Very sorry, brothers and sisters, we have a really bad Wi-Fi reception. Nevertheless, today we have Dharma speaker Brother Chim Siu Chun. He's our founding member of Subanjaya Buddhist Association. president of the associations from 1992 to 2019. That's a long way. And he is also the founding member a TVCM, which was registered in 2012 to bring the Theravada Buddhist community in Malaysia together to safeguard the interests of the Please type your question in the comment box. We will post the question to Brother Chim after the talk. However, just remember, due to time constraint, we may not be able to answer your question. We shall now invite Brother Chim to share the Dhamma this morning with the title Buddha Dhamma in Today's World. Over to you, Brother Chim.
Namo Buddhaya, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, good morning, Sukhi Hontu. The topic of this morning Dhamma talk is Buddha Dhamma in Today's World. Next, please. The Buddha Dhamma refers to the Dhamma taught by the Buddha. The word Dharma comes from the root word Dhar, D-H-R-I, Dhar, which means to sustain or to support. Dharma therefore signifies the true nature of things. There's a fundamental element of law operating in the universe that structure all phenomena in the universe, that sustain or support everything in the universe. This fundamental law of nature is called Dharma. And the Dharma taught by the Buddha is called the Buddha Dhamma, which is somehow often referred to just as the Dharma. The Buddha didn't teach everything in the world. That's to say, the Buddha didn't teach all the Dharma in the world, but the Dharma that the Buddha taught is enough for one to overcome our suffering and eventually to be totally liberated from the cycle of birth, aging, sickness, and death. And this is the main goal of the Buddha in teaching the Dhamma. Next, please. At one time, the Buddha was staying at Kosambi in the Simsapa forest. Simsapa is a kind of a rosewood. So the Buddha was staying in this rosewood forest at Kosambi. And then he picked up some Simsapa leaves with his hand. And he asked the monks, "What do you think, monks? Which are numerous? Are there more leaves in my hand or are those more leaves in the forest?" And the monks replied, "The leaves in the hand of the Blessed One are few in number. Lord, those overhead in the Simsapa forest are more numerous." In the same way, the Buddha said, in the same way, monks, those things that I have taught with direct knowledge, but have not taught are far more numerous than what I have taught. And why haven't I taught them? Because they are not connected with the goal and do not lead to cessation, to direct knowledge, and to self-awakening. This is what the Buddha said. Because those things are not connected with the goal of overcoming of suffering, do not lead to the cessation of the suffering, to direct knowledge of the path that lead to the cessation of the suffering, and to self-awakening, to our enlightenment. That's why I have not taught them, the Buddha say. And the Buddha say, and what have I taught? The Buddha say, I have taught this suffering, and this is origination of suffering, this is the cessation of suffering, and this is the path leading to the cessation of suffering. And why have I taught these things? Because they are connected with the goal of overcoming the suffering, and lead to cessation of the suffering, and to direct knowledge of the path that lead to the cessation of suffering, and to also our self-awakening. That's why I have taught them. The Buddha said this in the Samyutta Nikaya 56.31, the Simsapa Sutta. It is clear from this sutta that the Buddha didn't teach all the Dharma in the world, but the Dharma the Buddha taught is enough for liberation of one from dukkha, from suffering, from the cycle of birth, aging, sickness, and death, if one would follow the path as taught by the Buddha. Next. In my last talk, 3 Sundays ago, on 13th of June 2021, I related how our Buddha attained enlightenment one night about 2,600 years ago, when he was meditating under the Bodhi tree, during which his mindfulness becomes so powerful and his concentration becomes so deep that he first recalled his past life. Next, please. And this is what the Buddha described, how he recalled the past in the Majjhima Nikaya 36, in the Mahasajjaka Sutta. The Buddha said, when my mind was thus concentrated, purified, bright, and unblemished, rid of all defilements, pliant and malleable, steady and attained to imperturbability, I directed it to the knowledge of recollecting my past life. I recorded many of my past life, manifold past life, 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 1,000, 100,000, and so on and so forth. And also many eons of cosmic protection, many cycles of the world, formation and destruction, many eons of cosmic contraction, many eons of cosmic expansion, and many eons of cosmic contraction and expansion. This is how what the Buddha explained to us, how he recalled back his past life, and also how he recalled back how the world was formed, destroyed, formed again and again. And then the Buddha continued, there I had such a name, belonged to such a clan, and had such an appearance. Such was my food, my experience, my pleasure, my pain, such the end of my life. And passing away from that state, I rearose there, I reborn. There too I had such a name, belonged to such a clan, had such an appearance. Such was my food, such my experience of pleasure and pain, and such the end of my life. And passing away from that state, I rearose here. So the Buddha said he was reborn again and again and again and again. And thus I remember my manifold past life in the modes and details. This was the first knowledge I attained in the first watch of the night. And the Buddha continued. The Buddha said, in the second watch of the night, he developed his divine eye, and he saw how other beings went through the cycle of birth, aging, sickness, and death again and again in different planes of existence in the world system, dependent on the past karma. And finally, in the third watch of the night, the Buddha penetrated the Paticca Samuppada to fully understand the Four Noble Truths and attain the full enlightenment. And later, in the next 45 years of his ministry, the Buddha and his noble disciples taught all this essential Dharma in karma and rebirth, in Paticca Samuppada, or dependent origination, on the Four Noble Truths, besides other teachings, other supplementary teachings. What is the purpose of the Buddha teaching the Dharma? The purpose of the Buddha teaching the Dharma is for the followers to cultivate in accordance with the Dharma and gradually overcome suffering, and one day eventually to be totally free from suffering. Next, please. The Buddha taught the Dharma both in the spirit and the letter. That means to say the Buddha not only teach in words, but also through his compassionate action to help those in need. And the Buddha also sent out his disciples to propagate the Dharma so that more people can gradually learn and practice the Dharma and overcome their sufferings. But is this Dharma taught by the Buddha still relevant today after so many years? Is what the Buddha taught 2,600 years ago already outdated? Do we still need the Buddha teachings today? Today, world, I think all of you know, has changed so much as compared with the world during the Buddha's time. Next, please. Today's world has experienced so much progress and continue to progress at a breakneck speed in our digital world. Today, we have artificial intelligence, robotics, quantum computing, big data, 5G, Internet of Things, autonomous this and autonomous that, and so on and so forth. We can talk to our family members or relatives or friends thousands of kilometers away, in UK, in USA, or elsewhere, almost instantaneously. When I first have a video chat with my daughter in UK and now in the Netherlands, well, I was quite curious and make it a point to observe whether there's any delay between what I heard as her voice and also the movement of her lips, to see whether there's any delay when she talk, whether there's any lag time, and I couldn't notice any. We can see and talk to somewhere halfway around the globe as if he or she is just in front of us. This is so different from the way that we communicate with others overseas when we were much younger. When I was much younger, I have to wait for a letter delivered by a postman, or waiting so long for my turn at a public phone booth to dial and make a phone call to friends, and you cannot see them at the other end. The world has changed so much today. Our mode of communication has changed and improved so much. The world around us seems to be getting smaller and smaller, and yet we heard of so many stories of people knowing less and less about their family members, people who know their neighbors by sight, but may not even know their names. Today, despite we have so much technology and so much knowledge, much more than our ancestors, yet many people don't know much about their own family members and neighbors, nor their relatives, nor their friends. Some don't even know much about themselves. Despite having all the unprecedented technology to help us in communicating faster and to do our work faster and more efficiently, many people are getting more and more busy. More and more people are getting more and more unhappy in this world. There are a lot of family breakdown, divorce, depression, suicides, and etc. Why? What has happened? Can the Buddha Dharma or the Dharma taught by the Buddha help? The Buddha Dharma or the Dharma taught by the Buddha help us to understand better the true nature of our life and the true nature of the world around us. The Buddha Dharma helps us to discover ourselves, to get to know who we really are. The Buddha Dharma helps us to humble ourselves, knowing that we are just a very tiny speck of a combination of elements in the vast universe. The Buddha say, next please, that we are all just made up of the 6 elements. The Buddha say in the Anguttara Nikaya 3.61 that these are the 6 elements. The earth element, the Buddha called Patavi, Tatu. Earth is called Patavi, element is called Tatu. Water element, Apo. Fire, Tejo. Wind, Vayu, and space, Akasa, as well as consciousness element called Vijnana. And dependent on these 6 elements, the sense of an embryo occur. Dependent on the 6 elements, they come together, a new life is conceived. And when this new life is conceived, there's mind and body. All right. So the Buddha say that we are just merely composed of a mind and a body that are made up of unit particles of the mind and the body that are made up of various elements, the earth, water, wind, fire, consciousness, and space element that come together because of certain conditions, either to become a human being, or to become a heavenly being, or to become one of the animal in the animal kingdom, or to be reborn in the woeful states of existence. And then upon death, upon passing away, these elements will be separated again. And then one day may come together in different combination to form a new life in a human or heavenly or other planes of existence due to various conditions. And that will happen again and again and again, unless and until we attain Nibbana. We have been reborn again and again and again through countless years in the past, that there is a high probability that we may share an intimate relationship with other living beings and even other non-living beings at one point of time, that they may have been part of us, or we may have been part of them, that other beings, whether in this human world, heavenly world, animal world, may have once upon a time maybe our parents, our children, our brothers and sisters, relatives or friends, somewhere in the distant past or even in the recent past. This is what life is all about. If we can understand this perspective, isn't it time for us to be more compassionate to all other living beings? We have sinned or we have lived so long in samsara, reborn again and again, that the Buddha say, next please, that if the bodies from our past lives would be collected, the bones would stack higher than the highest mountain. And if the tears that we shed throughout how many lives in the past would be collected, the tears would fill the oceans of the world. This is a metaphor, analogy used by the Buddha to describe how we have lived for so many years in the past and so many years in the coming future, unless or until we attain Nibbana. The Buddha said that therefore it is very rare and very precious for us to be reborn again as a human being. Next please. The Buddha said, how rare is the birth as a human being. Hard is the life of mortals. Hard is the hearing of the true Dharma. Rare is the appearance of the Buddha. The Buddha say, or use this metaphor to illustrate how rare we can be reborn again in the human world. Next please. The Buddha say, suppose there's a blind turtle who lives in the bottom of the vast ocean. This turtle has a long life. It comes to the surface of the sea only once in 100 years. And then suppose there happen to be a log floating in the ocean. And this log has a hole in the center. The size of the hole is just as small as the neck of the turtle. The Buddha asked Ananda, do you think that this blind turtle can get into the hole of that floating log in the vast ocean? And Ananda replied, it's almost impossible, Bhante. Then the Buddha said, to be born as a human being is actually much more difficult than the possibility of a blind turtle going inside the hole of the log floating in the vast ocean. Life is, as a human being, is so precious. Since our life as human life is so rare and so precious, isn't it therefore we should live a more meaningful and purposeful life? And the Buddha Dharma help us to live a more meaningful and purposeful life as we strive in our spiritual path towards our spiritual goal. The difference between a real Buddhist practitioner guided by the Buddha Dharma as compared with the ordinary person not guided by the Buddha Dharma is most ordinary people are very busy with lots of worldly matters. Like for example, busily seeking for wealth, for position, fame, power, and some of these or all of these together. They are busy trying to fulfill such desires, which can be the root cause for so much frustration, worry, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. He may be caught up by this vicissitude of life. A real Buddhist practitioner, however, may also be very busy, but we remain calm when faced with gain or loss, fame or ill fame, pleasure or pain, praise or blame. The Buddha say, next please, in the Anguttara Nikaya 8.5, that these 8 worldly conditions revolve around the world, and the world revolves around these 8 conditions. What are these 8? Gain and loss, fame and ill fame, praise and blame, and pleasure and gain and pain. A wise and a mindful person, a good disciple of the Buddha, knows them and sees that they are subject to change. Desirable conditions don't excite the mind, nor is he repelled by undesirable conditions. So the Buddha said that as a disciple of the Buddha, who follow the path as taught the Buddha, we should remain calm under all circumstances and should cultivate ourselves to purify our mind from great hatred and delusion. When our mind is gradually purified from great hatred and delusion, we can also clearly see the people and the world around us with more clarity, and we can understand better why people are troubled by great hatred and delusion. And with inner calm, peace, and purity, we would not be troubled by the inadequacies of those around us. We will not harbor resentment, jealousy, or anger or hatred towards them. At the same time, also we reflect on our own inadequacies and try to improve ourselves through our own cultivation in dana, sila, and bhavana. And we strive more diligently to be mindful as we strive to keep our precepts. I'm sure all of us know what these 5 precepts that a Buddhist practitioner is expected to observe. Next, please. This is what we recite. I think most of us recite this every day, at least once a day. Panati Pata, Veramani Sikkhapadam Samadhi Yami, and so on and so forth. We undertake the training to abstain from killing living beings, to abstain from taking what is not given, to abstain from wrongful misconduct, sexual misconduct, to undertake to abstain from false speech, and also to abstain from taking intoxicants. Right? So this is what a Buddhist will be reciting every day. I think at least once a day or more. But some people may have a different, or may think that why should we keep these 5 precepts? If I don't, or why do we undertake to keep these precepts? If I don't undertake to keep the precepts, then I won't be breaking my precepts. Is that so? Then you will not feel guilty having broken the precepts you undertake to observe. Then you would not have any problem, isn't it? Is this true? No, it is not true. The issue is not the precepts. The issue is every unwholesome action that one does in accordance with the law of karma potentially create unwholesome vipaka or results. If one kills, steals, commits sexual misconduct, tell lies, take intoxicating drinks, he has to bear the consequences of what he has done, irrespective of whether he recite daily, whether he recite the observation of the 5 precepts or not, whether one recites to observe the precepts or not, whether one undertake to refrain from such actions or not. The fact that he kills or steals or commits sexual misconduct or tell lies will create that potential for him to eventually reap the consequences of his evil action. It does not mean that if you don't undertake to observe the 5 precepts, your evil actions will not give rise to evil vipaka or results. However, if one undertakes to observe the precepts and take the effort to keep the precepts, Perhaps he will break the precept today, but he knows he's aware of that. He may break the same precept tomorrow and another day and again another day and so on and so forth. But because he has been taking or undertaking every day not to do that, eventually his awareness will lead him to break his precepts less and less and less until one day he can easily observe the 5 precepts as a lay disciple of the Buddha, and he will no longer create so much bad karma like before. With a heart now filled with compassion, a mind filled with wisdom, and eyes filled with metta, instead of killing, he will help save the life of other beings, or help to relieve them of their suffering. Instead of taking what is not given, is more generous in giving to help the needy. Instead of indulging in all those sensual desires, he cultivates renunciation and simplicity. Instead of telling lies, he's more truthful. Instead of indulging in intoxicants and become heedless, he refrains from taking intoxicants and cultivate mindfulness to be more heedful. He is more diligent in cultivating himself in dana, sila, and bhavana. As he progresses in his cultivation nearer and nearer towards the path of the Arya. Along the path of cultivation, he is more mindful that as long as he has not attained the Arya path, he is still just an ordinary person with weaknesses, inadequacies, imperfections, and such awareness is the beginning of wisdom, and such awareness also leads to compassion for others. Next, please. And compassion can eventually affect the environment around us, leading to the improvement of our environment. How can this happen? If we practice compassion, we have non-greed, we become less greedy, we have less material needs, we use our material possessions more economically, less wastefully. Human beings will create less rubbish, cut less trees, less animals killed for human consumption, less wastage of water, foodstuff, etc. And therefore, less pollution to our environment. Hence, directly or indirectly, we have to protect our environment and our planet Earth. Hence, if out of compassion, human beings eat more non-meat for food, less trees or forests will be cut, less water will be consumed. In order to produce meat commercially for human consumption, massive tracts of land have been overdeveloped, and much to the detriment of the natural world. Large areas of forests have been cut, deforested to raise cattle or animals. Animal agriculture requires not only huge masses of land, but water and grain as well. Statistics shows that it takes more than 2,400 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of meat, but only 25 gallons to grow 1 pound of wheat. Next, please. Next, please. According to this report from The Guardian, it is said that meat production requires a much higher amount of water than vegetables. IME, or Institution of Mechanical Engineers, state that to produce 1 kg of meat requires between 5,000 and 20,000 liters of water, whereas to produce 1 kg of wheat requires between 500 and 4,000 liters of water. That's to say about 5 to 10 times more water needed to produce 1 kg of meat. Next, please. According to this report from Taiwan's Environmental Protection Administration, it is said that to produce or the carbon emission per kilogram of food products, meat such as beef has much higher greenhouse gases emission than grains and vegetables. The amount of carbon dioxide emitted during the production of just 1 kilogram of beef is, for example, 27 kilogram, more than 10 times that emitted during the production of 1 kilogram of tofu or beans or nuts and so on and so forth. So as you can see that the pollution due to carbon emission caused by livestock to produce meat for human consumption is a great environmental concern. If more people eat less meat, the positive impact on our environmental condition will be tremendous. So we have to thank those vegetarians for helping us to preserve our natural environment. I'm not here to urge you to be a vegetarian. I'm just saying that if people or more people eat non-meat, then together we can contribute to a more sustainable environment. Next, please. And from the Buddhist perspective, a sustainable, a natural, a beautiful natural environment is also conducive for our spiritual cultivation. During the Buddha's time, and even today, many monks will go to the forest, to the caves, to the scenic, to the beautiful banks of rivers or lakes or other natural environments to practice meditation. Many of them gain purity of mind at such places. The Buddha himself gained his enlightenment under a tree, under the Bodhi tree, near to the beautiful river of Uruvela. All right. The Buddha say, next please. The Buddha described how he was at this, under the Bodhi tree near to this beautiful landscape. He said, "O monks, while I was seeking after the supreme enlightenment, I wandered and in due time reached a village of Senani, which is in the principality of Uruvela. There I saw a delightful landscape, beside which a river flowed gently. Two banks of it were adorned with white shining sand. It was so enchanting that one could enter it without any inconvenience. Villages were situated in the surroundings, and it was quite convenient to go for alms round. I therefore deemed it to be the most suitable spot for meditation. Subsequently, I started practicing meditation day. And it was in this beautiful nature that the Buddha attained his full enlightenment. So a conducive environment is conducive to our spiritual development. Natural environment is important for mankind, for sustainability. Many of the suttas of the Buddha many of the suttas taught by the Buddha were also taught in such natural environments. And in my last Dhamma talk, I related how on my experience at the deer park at Isipatana, India, near to Varanasi, in 2004 during my pilgrimage trip to India. I think you know that there are 4 places mentioned by the Buddha that the Buddhists should visit. There is Lumbini in Nepal, where the Buddha was born in his last rebirth. In Buddha Gaya, where the Buddha or Bodhisattva became the fully enlightened Buddha. And in Sanaf, where the Buddha taught the first sermon. And in Kusinara, where the Buddha attained Parinibbana. So during my pilgrimage trip there in 2004, I realized, or I have the impression that there were pollution everywhere I went to, rubbish everywhere. It was so polluted wherever I went. But the moment we enter into one of those 4 Buddhist pilgrimage places, the air suddenly becomes so fresh. And the air seems to be, and there seems to be so much energy all around us. It seems like a miracle. And when we were at the deer park in Sanaf, we sat down to meditate for about 20 minutes in this very natural environment. I was not a regular meditator, but when I sat down in meditation at Deer Park, I felt so good, so peaceful, so tranquil, so serene. In fact, my eyes could feel very soothing, very cool and soothing sensation. And actually, for many years since my school days, I have this dry eyes problem. Sometimes it can be very irritating, and in fact, it can be very painful. And I have to use eye drops so that, or I need to close my eyes to rest for a while to relieve the irritations. But on that day, my eyes felt so nice, so cooling, and in fact, after that, for a few months, my eyes were still feeling so good that I didn't need to put eye drops for many months. Thus, I think this is the miracle of a conducive environment. With more compassion for others, we also develop non-hatred, hence avoiding conflicts, and therefore we help to promote peace and harmony. There are some of the benefits that arise by one who practice the Buddha Dharma. Hence, it is good for us too to share this Buddha Dharma with others, so that more people can also practice this Buddha Dharma. For every new person starting to practice the Buddha Dharma, there's a gain in the world for peace and harmony, and also for the sustainable development of our environment and our planet Earth. The greatest benefit of the gift of the Dharma is to help us to gradually overcome our suffering and can eventually let us to totally overcome our suffering. And this is very much needed in the world today. The central teachings of the Buddha is concerned with getting to know the true nature of suffering and the way to the cessation of suffering or dukkha. Next, please. The Buddha say, both in the past, months, and also now, I teach dukkha and the cessation of dukkha. Right? So this is the central teaching of the Buddha. Right? The central teaching of the Dharma is about dukkha and the cessation of dukkha. Dukkha is translated as suffering in English. The Buddha explained dukkha as follows. Next, please. The Buddha say in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the Buddha say, birth is suffering, old age is suffering, illness is suffering, death is suffering. This is the English translation of the original version. Originally, the Buddha's taught in Pali. The Buddha say, Jati pi dukkha. Jati is birth, pi is also. So birth also suffering. Jara pi old age. Old age also suffering. Vyati pi dukkha. Maranang pi dukkang. Death is illness is suffering. Death is illness also suffering. Death also suffering. So I think the better translation should be, birth is also there. In birth there is also suffering. In aging there is also suffering. In illness there is also suffering. In death there is also suffering. Because there are some people who disagree with what the Buddha say. Birth is suffering. They say, why? Because there's so much joy when the baby is born. There's so much joy. So some may not quite agree with birth is suffering. But if you look at the way that the baby was born, the moment he came out, the baby started to cry. And there was so much suffering experienced by the mother giving birth to the baby. So there is suffering in birth. There is suffering in old age. There is suffering in illness. There is suffering in death. And there's suffering also in association with the unpleasant. This association with the pleasant and not getting what we want is also suffering. And in short, in brief, to grasp on, to cling on to the five aggregates of our body and our mind is suffering. This is the Buddha explanation of what suffering is all about. Next, please. And this dukkha or this suffering can be in 3 levels. First of all is dukkha dukkata. After that is viparanima dukkha, and the third one is sankhara dukkata. All right, dukkha dukkata are our ordinary bodily and mental suffering, including feelings of irritation, disappointment, grief, lamentation, pain, despair, frustration, anguish, and so on and so forth. And some of this dukkha can be very painful. Like if one were to meet with an accident and get seriously injured, bleeding profusely, has maybe the limb broken, it can be very painful. Or if one has to experience those critical sicknesses, which can be very traumatic, and one suddenly would experience the loss of a beloved one suddenly. So all this can be very extreme form of mental and physical suffering. The next is viparinama dukkha. Viparinama dukkha is the dukkha due to change. Or a pleasant experience can also be dukkha, because they are subject to change externally. When the source of pleasure, or this external source of pleasure passes away, or even the source of pleasure remains with us for a prolonged period of time, our pleasant feelings also turn to become unpleasant. The source of our feelings of our happiness change our beloved ones. I mean, if even if the same thing that we like, if we have to experience again and again, then eventually also we will find it a source of irritation to us. For example, like maybe we visit or we listen to the same music again and again, or eat the same favorite dish every day. After 1 week or 2 weeks, we will not like to eat the same dish anymore. So this is viparinama dukkata. All right. The third level of dukkha is a sankhara dukkata, and this is the dukkha that has a deepest implication. The conditioned formation of the 5 aggregates of the body and mind. It's a combination of all those conditioned phenomena that undergo constant transformation. The Buddha taught us that the reality of the mind are composed of the unit particles of the body and the mind. Unit particles of mind called sampayutta dhamma, or the body called rupa kalapa, which in turn make up all those elements that we mentioned just now. And all these unit particles of mind and unit particles of the body are all subject to change, in a constant flux of change. They change so fast that our mind also cannot perceive all these changes in actuality. We look at this body, seems to be so solid, so beautiful, but in actual fact, in reality, the body, which is a combination of all these unit particles of the matter, in a constant flux of change. Our mind and body are composed of millions and millions of all these particles that arise and pass away at a speed so fast that we are not able to see all these individual units, but only see our mind, our body as such, and cannot even see our own mind at all. So how can we control such changes? We are no way that we can control these changes that take place within us. Even while we are young, yet we have to grow old. Even though we are healthy now, yet one day we grow sick. Even though we are alive, yet one day we have to pass away. Even though we may have been having a loving and a really happy relationship, yet one day our relationship can turn sour or can be separated from those that we love. All this gives rise to dukkha or suffering. This is a fact of life, a reality of life, a truth of life. And this reality of life discovered by the Buddha is called the First Noble Truth. And this was a reality 2,600 years ago during the time of the Buddha, and it is still a reality today, isn't it? Despite the unprecedented advances in science and technology, in AI, robotics, quantum computing, and so on and so forth, living beings are not free from birth, aging, sickness, and death, and eventual separation from our loved ones. This mind and body is not permanent. From early 2020 until now, the whole world is experiencing the reality of sickness and death due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Almost 200 million people have got infected, about 4 million people have died from the virus, and many more millions got to suffer. Many people were so depressed because of the lockdown and loss of income that many people are now facing with the potential of hunger. Some are in fact already facing hunger, and some already committed suicide. Despite the advance of health, science, and technology, we cannot even fight just a very small, a very microscopic virus. So small that it is even invisible to our naked eye. We cannot definitely be free from all this sickness and death. According to a news report in Malaysia alone, for the first 3 months of 2021, an average about 4 persons committed suicides a day. This was a statistic released by our Health Director General, Dr. Noor Hisham, on the 29th of June 2021. So many people suffer in one way or another, or in this modern digital era. The origin of suffering is the same as 2,600 years ago, and the way taught by the Buddha to overcome this suffering is still applicable today. What is the origin of dukkha? Dukkha is still the clinging, not to be able to let go because of our ignorance. We cling on to our mind and to our body, not only to our mind and body, but also to things around us, as well as other people's mind and body. We cling on to our sensual pleasures and to our possessions, and not able to let go. And the Buddha saw this when he reflected on the Paticca Samuppada. Next, please. The Buddha say, or the Buddha realized that all the suffering that we have, all our old age, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair, is because we were born. And we were born is because of the process of becoming bhava, right? And the process of becoming is because of our clinging. And clinging is because of craving, and craving is due to our feeling due to contact between our sense organs and the external objects. And the sense organs or sense spaces are because of is dependent on our mind and our body. And the mind and body is dependent on our consciousness. And consciousness is dependent on our karmic formation or volition. And volition is dependent on it's because it's due to our ignorance. So if there's no ignorance, then there'll be no karmic formation. If no karmic formation, there'll be no consciousness. If there's no consciousness, then there will be no mind and body. If there's no mind and body, there will not be any six sense bases. And if there's no six sense bases, there will no feeling. And when there's no feeling, there's no craving. And there's no craving, there's no clinging. And if we don't cling on, then this process of becoming called bhava will not happen. And if there's no process becoming, there will be no rebirth. And there's no rebirth, there will no more aging and death, sorrow, pain, lamentation, grief, and despair. So it is due to our clinging, because of our craving and ignorance, that we have to suffer for so long. And if you have no more clinging and craving, no more ignorance, then we will not be reborn again. And then we will not have to suffer all this. No? So that state of totally no more suffering is called Nibbana. And how can we overcome all this mental suffering? The Buddha said that we can do so by following the Noble Eightfold Path. This Noble Eightfold Path, or this Noble Eightfold Path, or Dukkha Nirodha Gamini Patipada Arya Satcha, or simply Magga Satcha, is a middle path taught by the Buddha to avoid the extremes of self-mortification, which is painful and unworthy and harmful and weakening one's intellect, and the extreme of self-indulgence in sensual pleasure, which is also harmful and unworthy, that retards one's spiritual progress. Next, please. The Buddha said in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta that this Noble Eightfold Path leads to the cessation of suffering. The path consists of right will, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. As you can see, the right will or right understanding, or the path starts with a right will or right understanding. And also, for all practical purposes, eventually also end with right will or right understanding. The right understanding at the beginning of the path is a maintained right understanding, or the right understanding, and the right understanding at the end of the path is called a supra-maintained right understanding. The right understanding that we need at the start of the Noble Eightfold Path is of a very preliminary type, very ordinary, maintained right understanding. The understanding of the law of karma and the doctrine of rebirth. The law of karma is one of the law of nature. And just like everything else in nature, which eventually takes its own course, karma will also eventually take its own course. Good will lead to good, and bad will lead to bad. With this, in the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha said, in accordance with the seed that is sown, so shall the fruits we shall reap. Good seed will bear good fruits, so good action will bear good results. We have to eventually bear the consequences of a good action or bad action, unless we keep on doing all good and create all the good conditions to prevent our bad karma from functioning. So with this right understanding of the law of karma, we are more restrained in our thoughts and action. We will cultivate our thoughts of goodwill, compassion, or harmlessness, and renunciation, or to let go. When the thoughts are wholesome, filled with goodwill and compassion and renunciation, our mind is purified and purified to that level of transgression. Although the body action is by the body, but all these actions originated from the mind. And mind is the forerunner of all things. When the mind is restrained by right thoughts, the body will be more restrained to avoid telling lies, harsh speech, gossiping and slander, killing, taking what is not given, sexual misconduct, and other evil deeds that cause harm and also to others and to ourselves. So instead of killing, we have to save the life of others. Instead of taking things not given and practicing, we practice generosity and charity to help others, to relieve the suffering of others. By helping to relieve the suffering of others, by doing charity, one will also derive a lot of happiness, because one learns how to let go and not cling on, and seeing others happy, because our action in giving also make us happy. And now those of us who are capable should try to give some to those who are in financial or hunger, in financial need, hunger or depression because of this COVID-19. I just encouraging to see that some restaurants, some supermarkets like Speed 99 and some NGOs and many NGOs reaching out to help the needy one during this pandemic. We also say a big sadhu to Subang Jaya Buddhist Association for reaching out, for organizing our members and devotees to help those needing people in India to get oxygen ventilators, to our local hospitals in the supply of PPE, and to provide food to those refugees in the Kutya Court 7, and so on and so forth. And sadhu to all of you who have contributed in one way or another to help others by giving generously. Happy is one who gives wisely. This is the Dharma taught by the Buddha, which is akaliko or timeless, which is true 2,600 years ago. It is also true today that happy is one who gives. Instead of sexual misconduct that cause harm to others and to ourselves, one is always be truthful in a relationship and not causing harm to others and to oneself. One will also live a right livelihood, avoiding occupations or business that cause harm to others. One will always make effort to have a wholesome mind, abandoning all the wholesome state of mind that already arose, preventing unwholesome state of mind from arising, but instead arousing our wholesome state of mind that arise and cultivate those wholesome states of mind. And with mind restrained through abstaining from evil and to do good, the mind is more pliant for the next level of practice. That is exerting the right effort to cultivate our right mindfulness and right concentration. So right mindfulness or samadhi, as taught by the Buddha, is to cultivate our mind, to develop our mind to attain the right concentration, to eventually see things as they really are, and to be able to see all this anicca, dukkha, and anatta of all phenomena, and to let go of them. So mindfulness is ideally to be cultivated every moment without any break. It's not easy to do so, and therefore it is good if one can retreat to a suitable place, preferably a quiet place, without any external disturbance, and practice meditation to develop and strengthen our mindfulness. And it was by meditation that the Buddha himself attained his enlightenment. According to some studies at the Harvard University, people who take only 8 sessions of mindfulness meditation training on the average are 20% happier than the others in the control group. Right? So it is meditation that the Buddha taught us to calm our mind and to the level of serenity or samatha, and focus the mind to see things as they really are, to the levels of insight or vipassana. The pinnacle of the Buddhist practice along the path of liberation consists of the arousing and development and strengthening of our mindfulness sakti until our mindfulness becomes so powerful and our concentration becomes so deep and the mind becomes so still and so quiet that one can see the true nature of anicca, dukkha, and anatta with clarity and with the habitual karma in letting go through our practice of dana and renunciation. And when one sees this body and mind as being impermanent, subject to suffering, and without any permanent entity, one becomes very disenchanted and very dispassionate with all this mind and body and cling to each no more. And we cling no more to the mind and body. And therefore, even though living in a world with so much unhappiness, the Dharma practitioner will experience less and less suffering until one day, with this practice of the Dharma, in accordance with the Dharma practitioner can be totally be free from suffering. This is the reality 2,600 years ago, and this is also the reality of today. Therefore, the Buddha taught, the Dharma taught by the Buddha 2,600 years ago is still very much relevant today to overcome our various problems of mankind. The Buddha says, Swagato Bhagavata Dhammo Sanditiko Akariko. The Dharma, well expounded, to be seen here and now, is timeless, right? It's true many years ago. It's also true even today. The Buddha Dharma can help us to bring a better world with sustainable development, a world of peace and harmony, and also a world around us that's more conducive to our spiritual development. Hence, the Buddha Dharma is still very relevant today for the well-being and for the happiness of humankind. And of course, for you and also for me and our family. May our world be a better world, conducive to our spiritual cultivation. May this COVID-19 pandemic be over soon, and may everyone be well and be safe. May all of us be able to cultivate ourselves to be free from suffering and eventually attain the bliss of Nibbana. May all of you be well and happy always. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Sape satta, bhavantu sukhitata. Thank you.
Sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much, Brother Jim, for the Dharma sharing on the title Buddha Dharma in today's world. Very relevant to all our devotees. Thank you for the sharing. Well, it's the question and answer time. I think there's a question. Let me see. Within safety and environment, we had been having food delivery takeaway that create more waste. Any comment? Well, that is definitely very true in today's environment. We have no choice. All right, what's your comment, Brother Jim?
Yeah, I certainly agree with you, Sister Yelin Tan. It's sometimes quite difficult for us to strike a balance between what we want and what we think should be more proper. That's why sometimes it's good for us to be mindful of what we are doing, and to cultivate mindfulness is one of the things that the Buddha taught us. We need to be mindful of what should be done and what should not be done, and strive to slowly, if you can, but slowly eventually to do what is more proper and to discard what is not so proper.
Well, I like to add my personal view is that if you are going to that will help a lot. And secondly is that separate your packaging. All right, it's paper or it's a plastics. Please separate them, wash it, then you just rinse it and then you separate and send it for the recycling. And I think that will help. Thank you very much. Let's have the next question.
My wife is
yeah, I always do that, and I always encourage all my friends. Yeah, you do that. All right. Let's see the next question. KCBA is the Hong Ti. In pandemic, we're suffering that we are gratitude more what we have and what we can offer. And any comments on that?
What you say is correct. And in fact, this is also what I mentioned just now. Sometimes it's because, especially in the human world, where you have a good balance between pleasure and suffering. And therefore, when we suffer, we begin to understand more about ourselves and more about others. And because of that, we develop the compassion for ourselves and also for others. And because of that, then therefore, we learn to be more grateful over the blessings that we have. And therefore, we learn to be more grateful for what we have because of what other people have done for us.
Yeah, that's right. Also, from the other talks that we have to be grateful, and we cannot be always be taking and taking. We should also give the what we can offer. There are many things we can do. Right.
And also, when a person have more gratitude, then a person, the heart is more open and is lighter, and therefore the person experience less suffering. He or she will be a happier person.
Well, it's true. You will have a very good image of yourself, and you will definitely send great influence to all the people around you, your own family, and your friends, and even your colleagues. That we should all be encouraging. Right, shall we go for the next question? Okay. KCBA, Sister Yelin Tan. How to guide a layperson?
Well, this morning we have 3 questions from KCBA. That's good. Sadhu, Sister Yelin Tan, and all the friends from KCBA. How to guide a layperson to have right view in the first place, as it is a foundation to the remaining of the Noble Eightfold Path. Just now I mentioned in my talk also, the Noble Eightfold Path as taught by the Buddha, for all practical purposes, start with right view or right understanding. A right understanding of at least the law of karma and the what they call the doctrine of rebirth, and then also end with right understanding or right view. And that right view at the end is a supramundane right view, the right view or the right understanding of the Four Noble Truth, the right understanding of the anicca, dukkha, and anatta of all phenomena. Right? So, but along the way, as a person, the Buddha gives this as a guide, what they call the guide for all of us to cultivate. And along the way of cultivating the Noble Eightfold Path, one practice dana, sila, and bhavana. Right. So along the way, the Buddha, this is where we have a gradual spiritual development to eventually to fully understand the Four Noble Truths. Okay.
Right. I think that's the final question already. We don't have any more question. All right. Yes, I think that's all. All right. Thank you very much for those who have participated. If there's any question left, let me see. No, we don't have. Sadhu sadhu to Barachim again. Thank you very much for sharing. I think we have learned a lot today. And I shall hand over today because due to my Wi-Fi issue, I will hand over to Sister Anne to do the sharing and merits. And after that.
Thank you, Rajan. Brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, this morning we have participated in the Sunday Buddha Puja service, listened to the Dhamma sharing by Barachim, and with further understanding with the Q&A. We have accumulated a lot of wholesome merits. Let us together dedicate these merits to the Devas and Nagas, to all our departed relatives, to our family and friends, and to all beings. And may they rejoice in these merits. During this COVID-19 pandemic, many are being affected. And may those who are being affected by the COVID-19, may they have a speedy recovery, be free from suffering, and be well and happy. Akasatta ca bummata Deva Naga Mahittika Punyantang Anumoditva Chirang Rakkantu Lokasasanang Chirang Rakkantu Desanang Chirang Rakkantu Mangparang Ettavata ca amhehi Sambatang punya sampadang Sabbe deva Sabbe satta Sabbe buddha anumodantu Sabba sampatti siddhya Idang me nyatinang hotu Sukita huntu nyatayo Idang me nyatinang hotu Sukita huntu nyatayo Idang me nyatinang hotu Sukita huntu nyatayo Imano punya bagang Mata pitu nanca Acharya nanca Sabba satta nanca Sabba mita nanca Sabba nyati nanca Sabba peta nanca Sabba devata nanca Bhajema Imano punya bagang Sabba sattanang dema Sabbe satta sukita huntu Imina punya kamina Mame bala samagamo Satang samagamo hotu Yava nibbana pattiya Idang me punyang Asavakaya vahang hotu. Idang me punyang nibbanasa pachayo hotu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So before we end, let us pay respect to the PUJA. Buddhang pujemi, Dhammang pujemi, Sanghang pujemi. Sukhi hontu. Sharing of the merits. Please continue to express your thanks to the speaker, Brother Chim Siu Chun, and the online team. And we have come to the end of this 51st online Sunday Buddha Puja. On every Sunday, please continue to share the link with your friends or relatives and with your family. Visit us again next Sunday, which is on this July 11th. May you and family be safe, well and happy and peaceful always. During this COVID-19 pandemic, you have to stay safe is to stay home. Sukhi hontu, goodbye, sabbe satta.
Bahung sahan semabhinim mita sayudantang ngirimi kelang udita Sasena marang Dana di dhamma vidina Jita